My first album was called Water Street, which is fortunately long extinct. It was a nice bunch of songs, but I was taking it all too seriously. So this is the Water Street song, which I've been working on. Sandy asked me to do this 2 weeks ago, and fortunately I'd been playing quite a bit because I was working on the next couple songs and an English folk song called Banks of Sweet Primroses that I'll get to. So this is Water Street. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. It's a pleasant street to walk by, starts at the edge of town. It's a pleasant street to walk by, the kind of street I don't walk down. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. Whiskey dogs my father's footstep, hot guilt blinds my mother's eye. I am weak and I am lonely, I have only one long try. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. One light shines from the end of Water Street, each remembered, none forgot. We are called from the end of Water Street, gather here and suffer not. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields. Someday I will walk down Water Street, far among the noble fields, far among the noble fields. And this one's called The Bull. That one is getting there. This is The Bull. This is I wrote 3 songs in one day. It was my crowning day as a songwriter. It was about 6 weeks before my son Louis was born. Those of you on Facebook know him as Louis, L-U-I. And I wrote The Living and Breathing Wind, which is sort of a lighter song. This is the darker of the 2 songs. And it's called The Bull. It's about, different relationships you can take to reality, meaning the right choice, the wrong choice, or that popular favorite, the effort to make no choice whatsoever. So, The Bull. It makes no difference how I behave, things are good, things are bad. I'm a king and a slave. I'm a rock and a stone, I'm a sea and a wave, waiting for the shoreline to reach me, waiting for the shoreline to reach me. One with the truth as the bull by the horns, lucky to breathe and to be kept born. Illusions shatter as the body is shorn of leaves that grew in the morning, of leaves that grew in the morning. God had a bow tie, God had a gun, he was your little brother, come a-looking for his fun. He went up, you went down, you were the knife and the sun, paused at the threshold of swallowing you, paused at the threshold of swallowing you. One with a lie as the bull by the tail, lucky to strangle, lucky to fail, is pulled to and fro through the dirt by the bull, like a leaf in the wind in the winter, a leaf in the wind in the winter. Listen to the footsteps beating on the bridge, running past the rivers where dead men live. They're walking off the mountain, falling off the ledge. Their wish is firmly broken and their souls are pledged. Their wish is firmly broken and their souls are pledged. Those who hold no handle but to wish their bodies well are sanctified in terror, counted out in hell, go wandering in limbo with their lives and bellies full, but they finish up in silence in the belly of the bull. They finish up in silence in the belly of the bull. It makes no difference how I behave, things are good, things are bad, I'm a king and a slave, I'm a rock and a stone, a sea and a wave, waiting for the shoreline to reach me, waiting for the shoreline to reach me. The bull. When the shy, slender thrush makes arrowy silence as she leaves her tree and slips to shelter among further boughs, when long March morning shadows spread like veils hinder the grass, and daisies in poor pasture lean the same way, when primroses are scarce and the whole wren shouts in her brave great song, where each white lamb traffics with his own mother, spring looks between penciled trees as a wayward child through her dark tumbled hair. She wears the dandelion, her bodice laced with catkin and with kingcup. Then cowslips grace the grass, and lazy cattle move tortoise necks to lick their spotted flanks. Then creaking tit and grating chaffinch flit within the maybush, and a singing school of linnets shakes the blackthorn's rimy lace, and balanced blackbirds light on yielding twigs. The water in the shallow ditch is stitched with thronging minnows, with their shadows, while from that blurred, blinding, loud-speaker sky comes pouring like sunlight the lark's noisiest music. That poem is by Rhoda Coghill, Irish poet, lived through most of the 20th century. She was also a composer of music. She did a musical setting of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. If she were not a woman, she would be better known as a poet. She's great. This is a Scots ballad. It's called The Twa Corbies, or I call it The Two Ravens, which means the same thing. And there's a well-known version, which is purely dour. This one really is about the birds, and it's a song about hope, I think. The Two Ravens. As I came by yon old house ruin, I saw two ravens sitting thereon. The one unto the other did say, "Oh, where shall we go and dine today? Oh, where shall we go and dine today? Oh, where but by yon new fallen birch? There lies a new slain knight. No mortal kens that he lies there, but his hawks and hounds and his lady fair. His hawks and hounds and his lady fair. We'll sit upon his bonny breastbone, and we'll pick out his bonny grain. We'll set our claws into his yellow hair, and build our bower, it's all blown bare. And build our bower, it's all blown bare. My mother hatched me out of an egg, and brought me up in the feathers gray. She bade me fly wherever I would, for winter would be my dying day. For winter would be my dying day. Now winter it has come and passed, and all the birds are building their nests. But I'll fly high above them all, and sing a song for summer's sake, and sing a song for summer's sake. Now, with the coming in of the spring, the days will stretch a bit, and after the feast of Bridget I shall hoist my flag and go, for since the thought got into my head, I can neither stand nor sit until I find myself in the middle of the county of Mayo. In Claremorris I should stop a night to sleep with decent men, and then I'd go to Bala just beyond and drink galore. And next I'd go to Kiltimagh for about a month, and after that I should be only a couple of miles from Ballymore. I say and swear that my heart lifts up like the lifting of a tide, rising up like the rising wind, till fog or mist must go, when I remember Cara and Gallen close beside, and the gap of the two bushes and the wide plains of Mayo. To Culloden then, where everything grows that is best. There are raspberries there and strawberries there, and all that is good for men. And were I only there among my folk, my heart would rest, for age itself would leave me there, and I'd be young again. Poem by James Stephens, Irish poet. Well, those of you who know anything about me know that I've been working on a Robert Burns songbook for several years, 6 now. We're in the stage now of proofing the songs.
92.5%.
92.5%.
Finished.
Yeah. I had originally planned to do 75 songs, translate them into scanning English, and do some guitar tabs. and then I started looking. The more I started looking at them, the more I realized that the songs, both the tunes and the texts, were never published properly in the first place. And I got just neck deep into this stuff. And I won't say too much, or I'll take up the whole hour. But this is a song I've meant to sing in my last two shows, and it just hasn't quite made it in. It's called Craigieburn-wood. And he collected this melody in the field and sent it to Scott's Musical Museum. And he included the old chorus with it, which didn't go with his lyric. And people have sung these 6 verses with this insipid chorus ever since. But the original draft is just 6 verses, and it's written to take advantage of the musical contrast between the verses. So he wrote this for a fellow exciseman. He was working for the excise at the time. He was a tax assessor. They would collect taxes at the point of manufacture in Scotland. Not when you bought it, but the person who made it had to pay tax on what they manufactured. Interesting stuff. Anyway, Craigieburn-wood. His friend John Gillespie had fallen madly in love with a woman named Jean Lorimer, so their names are in the song. He wrote it from the point of view of his friend, though he would later fall for Jean himself. Craigieburn-wood. I'm going to sing this in a little bit of the dialect. So canna, munna, cannot, must not. What else is in here? You'll make it out. Sweet closes the evening on Craigieburn-wood, and blithely awakens the morrow. But the pride of the spring in the Craigieburn-wood can yield me naught but sorrow. I see the spreading leaves and flowers, I hear the wild birds singing, but pleasure they have none for me, while care my heart is wringing. I canna see, I mauna see, I dare not for your anger, but secret love will break my heart if I conceal it longer. I see the graceful, straight and tall, I see the sweet and bonny, but oh, what will my torments be if thou refuse thy Johnny? To see thee in another's arms, in love to lie and languish, 'twill be my death that will be seen, my heart would burst with anguish. But Jeannie, say thou wilt be mine, say thou love's none before me, and all my days, oh life to come, I'll gratefully adore thee. Pretty tune.
Nice. That was beautiful. Yes.
This one is called The Rosebud. Well, he called it The Rosebud, and he wrote it to a melody composed by his friend David Sillar. If you know Burns' poetry, he wrote a couple of epistles to Davy, and that's David Sillar, the man who wrote this tune. And when Burns wrote this, he was living in Edinburgh, and he just made his poetic fame and met the publisher of the Scots Musical Museum and decided to work with that publication without pay, and did for the rest of his life, preserving Scottish folk music, writing songs to tunes that had never been set with lyrics before. And he was quite a ballad collector as well. There's several of the ballads he collected, including the first printed version of Tam Lin in the Francis James Child Ballad Collection. So when he was starting this work in Edinburgh, he was staying with a family, was hosting him, called the Cruikshanks. And their daughter, Janet Cruikshank, she was an only child, and she was a, what is the word, what's the word for a prodigy? I'd say prodigious. She was a prodigy she was a fine singer and harpsichord player. And so she was helping him sound out his songs. He liked to hear them outside of his ears. And so this song is, she's the subject of the song, and it was given as a gift to the family when he left. He left them this very beautiful song, which, a beautiful connection of nature and love and all the things that matter. So this is The Rosebud. A rosebud by my early walk, down the corn enclosed balk, so gently bent its thorny stalk, all on a dewy morning, ere twice the shades of dawn are fled in all its crimson glory spread, and drooping rich the dewy head, it scents the early morning. Within the bush her covert nest, a little linnet fondly pressed, the dew sat chilly on her breast, so early in the morning. She soon shall see her tender brood, the pride, the pleasure, oh, the wood, among the fresh green leaves bedewed, awake the early morning. So thou, dear bird, young Jeannie fair, on trembling string or vocal air, shalt sweetly pay the tender care that tends thy early morning. So thou, sweet rosebud, young and gay, shalt beauteous blaze upon the day, and bless the parents' evening ray that watched thy early morning. What a beauty.
Very beautiful.
That was indeed.
Yeah. I'm going to pair up a poem and a song. The poem is by Mary Oliver. Magnificent poet, Mary Oliver. I think you can put her with Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, Edna Millay, great American poets. This is called Trout Lilies, and it pairs up well with a song which is called Portrait of a Girl and Her Parents. And really the poem and the song are about the woman remembering her childhood. It happened I couldn't find in all my books more than a picture and a few words concerning the trout lily. So I shut my eyes and let the darkness come in and roll me back. The old creek began to sing in my ears as it rolled along like the hair of spring. And the young girl I used to be heard it also as she came swinging into the woods, truant from everything as usual, except the clear globe of day and its beautiful details. Then she stopped, where the first trout lilies of the year had sprung from the ground with their spotted bodies and their six-antlered bright faces and their many red tongues. If she spoke to them, I don't remember what she said. And if they kindly answered, it's a gift that can't be broken by giving it away. All I know is there was a light that lingered for hours under her eyelids that made a difference when she went back to a difficult house at the end of the day. They're here every day, and they walk in my dreams, dull eyes and sharp tongues, in a house full of screens, and they're here at the door, maybe watching for clues, where I'm never caught lying. I am ever accused, but there's always the world where the sun meets the grain and the whole rolling ocean in the salt of my pain. There's nothing important and nothing unknown. He's so busy, she's so high-toned, and I, their bright jewel, so rare and so pale, like a fine china jar where the cookies go stale. There's always the world, I keep it hid up my sleeve, and I take it out dancing when the company leaves. There's little joy taken when your enemy's dead, and the wounds you were given are all in your head. Go tell the explainers, tell them in time, they might have their answers, but they never have mine. There's always the world, I was never to blame, where you can't be a loser life's not a game.
Well, that's my favorite so far.
Like that.
Well, this one, I got on a plane. I'd never been on a plane. I was 19. I had spent 4.5, 6 months working as a janitor at the Davies Center over here in Glendale Heights. Is that where it is? Is it still the Davies Center? I think it is. Vocational high school. I was working there as a janitor. Earned the money to go to Europe. I thought I was going to hear Ewan McCall, and I did hear Ewan McCall sing twice at the Singers Club in London. And I rented a bike, and I went and took it up to York and rode up into Scotland. And I was in Glencoe, which is as far north as I got, and I could either have cycled on up to John O'Groats, the northernmost point of Scotland, or gone to the Cambridge Folk Festival. And something told me to get on a train and go to the Cambridge Folk Festival. And I did. There was a workshop tent there. There were 4 singers: Johnny Morris, Jean Redpath, Holly Tannen, and Martin Carthy, whom I'd only heard 3 songs of. And I was sitting in a tent of 1,000 people, and they were going through their sound check, and I was about a third of the way back. And Martin looked up and smiled at me. This beautiful smile, and I smiled back, and came home with all of his records, and he's really been my guiding musical inspiration ever since. Songwriters come and go and get messed up on drugs and whatever, but he's just always been at the pinnacle of what he can do, and set the bar about as high as it can go. And this was a song from one of his early records, and it kind of became my ex-wife and mother of my children, my first ex-wife, and Lewis and Casey. We can all sing this song in harmony together. It's from Sussex, and I've lately been influenced by Shirley Collins's version, because she's from there. Anyway, this is just a wonderful folk song. Banks of Sweet Primroses. As I walked out one midsummer's morning, for to view the fields and to take the air, down by the banks of the sweet primroses, there I beheld a most lovely fair. With 3 long steps I stepped up to her, not knowing her as she passed me by. I stepped up to her, thinking for to view her. She appeared to me like a virtuous bride. I said, fair maid, where are you going? Or what's the occasion of all your grief? I will make you as happy as any lady, if you will grant me one small relief. She said, stand off, you are deceitful, you are deceitful and a false young man. It is you that has caused my poor heart to wander, and to give me comfort is all in vain. I will go down in some lone valley shall me find, where the pretty little songbirds do change their voices, and every moment blows blusterous wind. Come all you young men who go a-courting, pray pay attention to what I say. There is many a dark and a cloudy morning, turns out to be a most sunshiny day.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, when you're growing up, you'll have friends, but you might have one friend where you almost become a family member, and they almost become a family member in your family. And that's the case with my friend whom I call Fred in this song. I changed the name to Protect the Innocent.
But you
Fred's
know,
family lived in a condo across the tracks from high school. Free period, we'd be up there drinking tea. Happy memory. Fred's mother lived in a bathrobe and frowned more than she spoke when she'd emerge on rare occasions for coffee and a smoke. Fred's brother lived in his bedroom without much to feed his soul, but a couple thousand 45s and a love for rock and roll. Fred said he'd been suicidal, and he had a rare affliction. With no moisture to his body, he used lotion by the carton. Fred's brother used so much lotion of this one special brand. Each year they sent a company pen to thank the nation's driest man. Fred's dad bought a little farm, a bet for better days, where we cleared out box elder trees for a week of summer days. And when we finished high school, all their kids were grown. Fred's dad moved his troubled wife up to that quiet farm. Fred's mom was long recovered, and his brother 27, set to marry his first girlfriend, a 19-year-old woman. They offered $30. I thought it quite a thing to mark the priceless honor of singing at their wedding. And so they came to walk between new and old family, and stood in humble joy before the minister and me. But I recoil to recall the twisted things he said. His words flowed on like oily snakes that rent the air and fled. but he would not see one holy thing that stood before his eyes. He told them where the Spirit lived. He warned them how it moved, as if true love, the miracle, could somehow be improved. I saw the bride's glad shining eyes glaze over and go dull. The groom stood gray and vacant now, where late his heart was full. But it was more than anger that caused my voice to ring and gave me breath to sing their song better than I can sing. And when my part was over, all praises to the muse. It wasn't just the old folks that were crying in the pews. Fred's brother lives in Wisconsin, 4 children to his wife. He still has to put on lotion every morning of his life.
So you changed the names, but how did Fred, or did he recognize himself in the song, and did the family, and how did they react?
Oh, they love the song. I actually got to sing it for at a house concert at that house with his brother there.
Wow.
So there's more to that family. His dad was a World War. His dad was the son of German immigrants, and he spoke fluent German, and he was going behind the lines in Germany in World War II.
Wow.
And won a Purple Heart.
Wow.
He was a great guy. This is Melissa Dagenhart. The King. The dusty attic room, stillness of a tomb, where someone else's memory gathers in the gloom. While out on the quay, the water slapped at me and roared as if to say, we wash it all away. This is where my king calls me home. My king calls me home. This is where my king calls me home. Struggle was the lock, and honor the key. Your sorrow's all a basket for the gift you bring to me. And everywhere you've been, you visit once again, with careless caroling and never want a thing. This is where my king calls me home. My king calls me home. This is where my king calls me home. A weed that never bloomed in the shadow of the eve stood up all afternoon and hung its head to grieve as one newborn to violence who couldn't beat the odds has paid the price of cruel choice for all little gods. This is where my king calls me home. My king calls me home. This is where my king calls me home. I leave you where the spring, in urgent trickling like magic through the wood, seems anybody good, where every move away leads towards another day, where at your journey's end, I find you whole again.